Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story.
I think my biggest problem has always been my appearance. I'm not what every woman dreams of when picturing her, knight in shining armor. I'm a big simpleton, standing at 190 centimeters tall and weighing almost 140 kilograms. Fortunately, there is almost no excess fat. I have a thick nose, emphasized by deeply set, slanted eyes. I have all my teeth and all my hair, but it doesn't improve the overall picture at all. I work a lot as a heavy equipment operator, so my reddish hair is cut short. It's easier to keep them clean, and they don't get in my way. Despite all my flaws, I was happy to find a woman whom I married and spent my life with. Loretta wasn't ugly, but she couldn't be called a stunning beauty either. In my opinion, everything was fine with her. Of course, compared to me, she was petite, standing at 160 centimeters tall. She endured my roughness and always teased me about it, in a good sense of the word. When she teased me, I never felt offended or belittled. It was nice to feel comfortable with her. We got married young, and we had a son, Brian, who is now 16, and a daughter, Monica, who is a year younger. Fortunately, the children took after their mother more than me. The kids were smart and well-mannered. I was a proud father, as well as a content and happy husband. I worked as a heavy equipment operator for my Uncle Sal. It was more or less a family business, but Uncle Sal ran everything. We all received salaries and worked as many hours as we could. At the end of the year, any profit that wasn't used for purchasing new equipment was distributed among family members. It was a pleasant arrangement. Loretta got a job at a small company that conducted property evaluations for banks and investment firms. She didn't actually perform the evaluations but handled text typing, document formatting, and data entry. Life was good, and I felt like I should just leave everything as it was. There was a small thing that made me pause. I just happened to notice something resembling a hickey on my wife's neck. Usually, I would tease her about it, but for some reason, I didn't that time. If it was a hickey, I knew for sure I didn't put it there. It could have been a bug bite or maybe an ingrown hair. She made my concern worse by trying to cover it with makeup while we were at home. I could understand why she'd want to hide it if we were going out, but why bother at home? If Loretta was seeing someone else, she did it during the day. She never went out in the evening when I wasn't around. I was sure she didn't meet anyone at home. It tormented me for a whole week. Of course, by that time, the love bite had faded, but the memory of it remained. Our sex life was wonderful. Maybe I wasn't as romantic as I should have been, but I always bought her flowers for no reason and never forgot her birthday or our anniversary. We regularly went out to eat, and whenever possible, we went to shows or movies. Every year, we took the whole family on vacation to some special place. I valued her as a wife and as a companion. Now I was going crazy with doubts about that silly red mark on her neck. Work was a bit slow, so Uncle Sal had no problem giving me a few days off. I had no idea what I needed or what I was going to do. I decided to just follow her around and see if anything happened. I borrowed a car from one of the guys at work and bought a crossword puzzle book. For 2 days, nothing happened. I followed her to work, to lunch, and back home. On the third day, I started feeling like a complete idiot. Loretta left the office for lunch a little earlier than usual. Instead of heading to her car, she walked around the building. A white 4-door company car pulled up from the back of the building, and Loretta got into the passenger seat. She was probably going for lunch with someone from work. It was a bit different from the previous 2 days, but not unusually so. I easily followed them, and my worst fears were confirmed. The white car pulled into the parking lot of one of the small, shabby motels near the state entrance. I recognized the guy as one of the appraisers Loretta worked with, Tom, whatever his name was. He already had a key. They entered the room as if they had done it hundreds of times before. He was a handsome guy, about 10 years younger than Loretta. They closed the curtains and blinds. Unfortunately, I hadn't thought this far ahead. I had no idea what to do now. I think the most sensible thing would have been to wait for Loretta to return home that evening and then talk to her face to face. Emotions got the better of me. I got out of the car and headed towards the motel door. This was an old motel, and the door with its doorframe was wooden. Even if there was a security latch on the door, a strong push could rip the screws right out of the frame. It had been about 10 minutes since they entered the room. I stopped one of the workers and told her to call 911. She looked at me strangely and immediately grabbed her phone. I decided to wait another 5 minutes before breaking down the door. My patience lasted only 2. I slammed my right shoulder into the door with all my strength. The lock not only gave way but the hinges also came out of the wall. The door crashed to the floor with a deafening noise, startling Loretta and her lover to death. They were lying naked in bed, and before he could get off her, I grabbed him by the neck. Seeing my wife having sex with another man was beyond my endurance. It was his fault because he knew she was married. It was her fault for the same reason. My rage burst out. My wife had never seen this side of me before. Tom, whatever his name was, never recovered from the first 2 blows that broke several ribs. After that, he couldn't move or catch his breath. I took my time and systematically hit him in the face and body until it was covered in blood, bruises, or fractures. Loretta screamed for me to stop and at one point tried to grab me. During her lunge, I elbowed her in the lips. She flew across the room, blood gushing from her split lip. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was handcuffed in the backseat of a police car. Paramedics were wheeling Tom away on a stretcher, and Loretta was standing by the ambulance, treating her lip, wrapped in a motel sheet. She looked at the patrol car, imagined me inside, and burst into tears. A female police officer escorted her back to the room as the police car pulled out of the motel parking lot. I didn't contest the charges or request a lawyer or trial. Justice was swift. Since I had asked the maid to call 911 before breaking down the door, they labeled it premeditated. It didn't matter much to me. I received a 2-year prison sentence. My brother Louis was the only one who saw me before I was sent to state prison. He promised to visit me once things settled down a bit. I had no trouble in my new home, especially after the rumor spread about why I ended up there. It took 10 days before Louis showed up. "John, I was going to bring you cigarettes, but then I remembered you don't smoke." He lightened the mood with his little joke. "Stop talking nonsense, Louis. What's going on at home? No one tells me anything, and all I hear in this place is rumors and nonsense. It's as bad as it can get. The kids and the family are in despair, and Loretta has been hiding in the house since it happened. Brian and Monica are staying with Mom and Dad, but they plan to come back home later this week. I don't know anything about Loretta because she's not talking to anyone. Her sister Joyce approached the house, but Loretta didn't let her in. Has Loretta been talking to the kids? No, they've tried several times, but she outright refuses to talk to them. I don't think she'll ever discuss what really happened with anyone. I take it she's not planning to go to work? Damn it, she's not even planning to leave the house. She's running out of food soon. Who's paying the bills? I don't know. I'll ask Brian to see if he can figure something out later this week. Monica is determined to come back home one way or another. What about the guy? His name is Tom Bostic. He's still in the hospital and will probably be there for another couple of weeks. What the hell? I just roughed him up a bit. Why is he still in that damn hospital? You really beat him up, John. Besides broken ribs and a collarbone, he had a lot of internal injuries. I couldn't get all the details, but I think it's somehow related to his kidneys and spleen. His reproductive organs took a hit from you too. He has to eat through a straw, and there's something wrong with one of his eyes. I must have lost my temper. Seems like it. I think I need to talk to the kids. Could you bring them next time you come over? I don't understand why not. After Louis left, I made a list of things that, in my opinion, needed to be taken care of in the house. Of course, all of this was based on what Louis told me about Loretta's behavior. I felt obligated to ensure proper household management, at least until the kids finished school. Brian and Monica showed up 5 days later. Louis wasn't with them. Where's your uncle? He had to go to work. I picked up Mom's car from her office, and we decided to come here on our own. Brian seemed proud of himself. What was she doing at the office? She's been there since the day you were arrested. Mom never picked her up. She hasn't driven or even left the house since then. Is she okay? Monica shook her head and looked up. No, she doesn't talk, just flutters around the room. She doesn't answer any questions and refuses to answer phone calls. The voicemail is full. I tried to answer as many calls as possible, but only from relatives. Even reporters called. Guys, will everything be okay with you there, or do you want to stay with Grandma and Grandpa? I think we'll be fine, Dad. We just need to establish some sort of daily routine. Brian sounded confident, and I was glad my kids were taking control of things. We spent the next hour discussing what they could do and how I could help. I was still getting a salary, so I offered to set up automatic bill payments for utilities. I asked Monica to take her mother's debit card so they could withdraw cash for other expenses. It also worked as a debit card, which would simplify some other expenses. Brian worked on yard work and car repairs, as well as helping Monica with household chores and cooking. Apparently, Loretta could still take care of herself but simply lost all desire to communicate. Monica mentioned that she had developed a bit of an obsessive idea about cleaning and the overall appearance of the house. She constantly dusted and rearranged things for no apparent reason. I couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Before they left, I asked Monica to tell her mother that I want to talk to her about what happened. Monica didn't seem to think that Loretta would want to, but she promised to try. Loretta never came to the prison to see me. She didn't call or write once. Monica and Brian tried unsuccessfully to convince her to do so, and even brought in Joyce, Loretta's sister. 6 months passed. Everything settled down, but I still didn't get any explanations from my wife. Brian, Monica, and Louis visited me regularly, and a few guys from work took time off to come and chat. After that, things got a bit more interesting. 2 weeks after Tom Bostic got injured, his wife filed for divorce. He had nothing to fall back on. Now he had 2 children to support, plus alimony and rent to pay. When Tom was discharged from the hospital, he was transferred to a rehabilitation center. His expenses began to exceed his insurance coverage, so he decided to sue me. It was damn difficult, and I didn't understand anything. Uncle Sal came to the rescue. Within a week, the company's lawyer filed counterclaims against Bostic for alienation of affection and against the company where Bostic and Loretta worked. The lawyer was a cunning and noisy person. Suddenly, all the legal claims from both sides ceased. I didn't get anything, but I didn't have to pay anything either. 3 months later, the situation in the family hadn't changed. Brian graduated from school and enlisted in the Air Force. He was supposed to leave in a month. Since Monica now had a driver's license, they didn't think his departure would create any problems. Loretta still didn't answer phone calls and still refused to leave the house. She didn't cause any problems for Monica, but this couldn't continue for long. Loretta started saying no to Monica every time she tried to talk to her or visit me. Monica started coming to see me alone after Brian left. Sometimes she came with Louis. Joyce, Loretta's sister, came to visit me once, and I never understood why. It's been almost a year since I started serving my sentence. My wife became reclusive and refused to see or talk to me or anyone else. I spent many hours reflecting on the situation. Loretta never apologized to me. She never asked for my forgiveness. She never explained to me why she had an affair. She never offered any ways for us to resolve or fix what went wrong. She never admitted that something went wrong. It was as if I didn't matter at all. It made me feel small and insignificant. The fact that she didn't respond to my feelings about the situation showed me that, in her opinion, I was unworthy of her time or attention. I felt like a bug on her windshield or a piece of dog poop on the sole of her shoe. Once the problem with me was resolved, she would never have to worry about it again. I could spend hours contemplating such things. I found that an inner anger was growing within me. Tom Bostic completed his rehabilitation course and lived in a cheap apartment near his work. Louis told me he limped and seemed to have a tick in his right eye. I felt a bit sorry for the guy until Monica told me troubling news. Loretta was taking a shower when Monica needed my doll. She rummaged through her mother's purse and found a prepaid cell phone hidden at the bottom. The phone had only one programmed number. Monica wrote down the number of that phone and the one in the directory. It was troubling news. Of course, given how things were unfolding, I wasn't going back to Loretta under any circumstances. However, the thought that she could still be in contact with Bostic enraged me. 2 weeks later, it was announced that 127 of us would be released early. My name was on the list. While I was in prison, I had no problems, and when I got out, I had a job waiting for me, and I was a first-time offender. How lucky can one person be? Louis and Monica came to pick me up. I decided to stay at my parents' house for a while until Loretta got used to my presence. It was an unnecessary precaution. Loretta disappeared. For the first time in a year, she left the house. She didn't tell anyone anything or leave any notes. A quick check showed that she took most of her clothes and a few suitcases. I avoided confronting my wife about her affair, or rather, she avoided me. I eagerly awaited her explanation. Of course, if she still refused to talk after I returned home, I wouldn't have learned anything anyway. I also learned that Tom Bostic quit his job last week. Interesting. Instead of staying with my parents, I returned home to Monica. She seemed happy that I was home, especially since she now had a steady boyfriend. Of course, it also meant that I spent nights at home alone. I never thought I would miss my cellmates. Any company was better than none. A week later, I went back to work. It felt like I hadn't gone anywhere. I felt obligated to Uncle Sal and his family to work overtime. No one denied me that opportunity. Somehow, over the past year, I seem to have lost my taste for beer. I know it sounds strange, but it just didn't quench my thirst like before. I never had a strong affinity for alcoholic drinks, so I started drinking a lot of soda and iced tea. I joked about it a bit, but I was immune to pressure from friends. The most unpleasant part started at night when I caught myself thinking about Loretta and Tom Bostic. They made a fool out of me. I didn't even know Bostic, but the treatment I received from my wife was undeserved. I never treated her poorly. I never insulted her physically or verbally. I always treated her with respect and love. I didn't do anything that could have caused her to hate me. Of course, I had the feeling that she didn't actually hate me. She just didn't feel anything at all. She simply discarded me like an old shoe without a second thought. It was humiliating. Monica tried to help as much as she could, but there wasn't much she could do. I was happy that she found a boyfriend, especially after she had problems taking care of her mother last year. I wanted to give her as much time as she needed to catch up. I also tried not to show my depression at home or at work. The more time I spent at work, the less I thought about Loretta. When I came home, I usually felt tired and slept well. On Sunday afternoon, I decided to visit Joyce. Joyce was Loretta's younger sister. She was divorced and had 2 children who were in elementary school. I always appreciated the fact that she visited me while I was in prison, although I could never understand why. Sometimes I thought that if I had been a bit friendlier when she came, she might have returned again. "John, it's nice to see you. I heard you're back home. Come in. Would you like some coffee or beer?" I followed my sister-in-law into the kitchen. "Coffee would be great. I think I know why you're here. I may not know much, but I'll help if I can. The main question that you probably won't be able to help me with is, why?" Joyce placed 2 hot cups on the table and sat across from me. "You're right, John. I won't be able to help you with that. I've asked her several times and in different ways, but she always either ignored me or changed the subject. I thought she wasn't talking to you. Just a week ago, she refused to even meet with me. Suddenly, she wanted to talk. For a few moments, silence fell. It turned out that Joyce was ready to answer my questions, but she was a bit cautious about offering anything voluntarily. "Joyce, why did you come to me in Grateford?" "I don't know. I felt like Loretta somehow let you down, and I didn't think you deserved that. You didn't seem too happy to see me, so I didn't come back. I'm sorry. I was still hurting. I didn't understand why you came, and I didn't know how to react. I guess I was too sensitive. Besides what I read in the newspapers, I still don't know what happened." Joyce sighed lightly. I finished my coffee and chuckled softly. It was simple. She cheated, and I caught them and kicked the guy's ass. End of story. Except that you spent a year in prison. I like to think of it as a vacation. It was better than one of those damn cruises. We both tried to find humor in the situation, but it didn't work out for us. "Why are you really here, John? Where is she?" I tried to speak as straightforwardly as possible to get a direct answer. "She's in Reno." Damn, that worked. I asked a question and got an answer. Loretta came to me to talk about my divorce. I couldn't help her because I didn't have the answers she was looking for. Why? She wants a divorce that would allow her to break free without seeing you or contacting you. I told her she couldn't do that here. She seemed a bit upset. She didn't want to go to Nevada because of residency requirements, but she decided it was her only option. The company she worked for had a branch in Reno. The guy she was with, Tom what's his name, was able to get her transferred there. She intends to file for divorce as soon as she's been there long enough. All of this made sense. I didn't like it, but it made sense. I don't know why she just didn't do it while I was in prison. She could have sent me the documents, and I would have gladly signed and sent them back. She waited too long and tangled herself up. What the hell did I do wrong, Joyce? I asked my sister about it when she left. She just smirked and walked out the door without giving me an answer. Maybe she decided I wasn't good enough. It's a shame she didn't tell me that before we got married. Then you wouldn't have Brian and Monica. All I could do was force a slight smile. John, my husband, was handsome, but he was an asshole. That's a bad reason to marry a man. I won't make that mistake again. Maybe I'll have to find a divorced woman who used to have a handsome husband. Maybe I'll be luckier next time. It was stupid of me, and I didn't realize it until the words slipped from my lips. Excited, I got up and thanked Joyce for the coffee and conversation. It seems I understood why she came to Greeterford to see me. Not only am I ugly, but apparently a bit dim too. As I left, she looked a bit embarrassed, and I felt uneasy. I booked a week-long cruise in the Caribbean Sea and gave the ticket to Lewis. Lewis wasn't married, and I knew he would appreciate the trip, especially at my expense. In return, I borrowed his car. The less he knew, the better. The road to Reno took me 3 days. I found an empty building east of Sparks, and I had no trouble getting Tom Bostic to come and assess its condition. He arrived with his trusty notepad and tape measure. Within 30 minutes, he was already sitting in Lewis's car's trunk and heading east. I drove about 50 kilometers from Winnemucca before finding a convenient turnoff. I didn't know where the dirt road led, but I only drove the first mile. Tom was breathing when I put him in the trunk, but at some point over the last few hours, he decided to stop breathing. It was annoying because I wanted to talk to him a bit more. I found a cute little ravine with lots of rocks and unattractive vegetation. I took his watch, wallet, and cell phone before tossing the body into the ravine. Eventually, someone might find him, but not before coyotes and other critters have had their way with him. I continued my journey eastward, feeling somewhat less humiliated. I never considered myself a vengeful person, but it seemed I truly was. I went into a casino in Elko and left Tom's wallet in the men's restroom. I was confident someone would take it and use the credit cards. No one would report the wallet missing, which meant no one would report unauthorized credit card usage. There was nothing special in the watch, so I just tossed it into the trash bin. I had just arrived in Utah and decided I would call Joyce when I got back home. Maybe nothing would come of it, but at least I could enjoy a nice dinner at a restaurant with her. I was starting to recover when my cell phone rang. The display showed the same number Monica had given. It seemed I was indeed going to talk to my wife. "Tom, where the hell are you? Tom, are you there? Answer me." My hoarse voice is as distinctive as my vulgar appearance. I couldn't hide that. "Sorry, you've got the wrong number," I said. I listened for a moment, just enough to hear my wife say, "Oh God, no." I threw my cell phone out of the car window. In a few days, I'll be home. I really hope Lewis is enjoying my vacation.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.